Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing great and that you enjoyed today's video. If you're new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing to the channel and click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I upload new videos. Thank you for your support. I was solo camping on a trail just an hour north of Fairbanks, Alaska, near the White Mountains mountain range. I had been at the spot, set up with my tent and everything, for 2 days already. It was just past noon, and I'd made a campfire early, sitting around it, enjoying a meal, when a man showed you. It startled me. I hadn't seen anyone, or even really any wildlife, for the whole 2 days I'd been out there. I also didn't hear him walking up, or even see where he came from, whether it was from the trail or just the wilderness. He looked like your typical camper, though. Backpack, gear, everything. And he seemed kind enough. He simply asked if I knew where the cabin was. Although I'd never been to the cabin he was mentioning, I did know what he was talking about. A lot of trails around here have these public shelters, really small cabins you can use temporarily along your hikes. Usually they aren't maintained well, and they're just first come, first served. During the 2 days I was at this campsite, I'd seen a separate thin path going into forest. I assumed it led to one of those shelters. I let the man know that if there was a cabin out here, it was probably down there. He thanked me and walked away. I tended to the fire and relaxed for the rest of the day. This was the last night. I planned to stay before heading back. So I just wanted to enjoy the scenery and calmness. It was probably 9 or 10 p.m. But around this time of year, up in Alaska, the sun doesn't fully set. It gets dark, but not pitch black, not like it would in most other places. The sun was at the horizon, casting a shadow over the woods, when out of the trees, I saw someone walking toward me. As they got closer, I saw it was a camper from earlier. I was rightfully confused why he was here, but he explained right away. He couldn't find a shelter. I said, maybe there wasn't one. I really didn't know. But the man corrected himself. He said he never found the trail I was talking about and was hoping I'd show him to it. I thought it was strange he was gone for so long. If he never found the trail, why was he coming back hours later? What was he doing that whole time, if not staying in the shelter? I initially just tried to explain again where the trail was, but he was kind of set on having me lead the way. He sort of guilt-tripped me, said he didn't have a tent and was relying on that shelter for the night. I felt bad, and even though I didn't want to and found this whole thing a little odd, I decided I'd just take him to the path. It wasn't far anyway. I tossed my bag over my shoulders and started leading him there. Where I was sure I'd seen, it was maybe a 10-minute walk through the forest. The whole walk there, the guy was pretty quiet. We both just walked without talking much. It felt like something had changed. 10 minutes later, I found the trail. It was exactly where I said it was. There was no way he could have missed it. And even weirder, I could actually see the shelter far down toward the end of it. Sure, it was far, and trees were blocking a good portion of it, but there's just no way he didn't find it from the directions I gave him. We walked a little closer, but the man didn't seem satisfied. I was expecting a thank you or something. Instead, he said, "This isn't the right cabin." I didn't know what he meant. We kept walking, pretty much right up to the cabin. It definitely didn't look in good shape. But that's always the risk with these public shelters. You should never rely on them. This one looked worse than most. Broken windows, moldy wood. Overall, like it had been deserted for years. I realized, as I was looking at it, the man had gone quiet. I turned around. He had stopped walking, standing maybe 10 feet from me, holding out a knife. His face was stiff. His eyes had a dead stare. He told me, in a monotone, emotionless voice, "Go in." I tried to ask what the hell he was doing. He told me again without answering, "Go inside the cabin." My adrenaline was flowing. I was angry that he'd taken advantage of me being helpful, but also scared shitless, knowing I was alone with him out here. I decided going into the cabin was probably the worst option. There was still some distance between us. So I dropped my bag and started running. Weirdly, I didn't hear him chase me. I looked back once I got further into the woods. He was still just standing there holding the knife, staring at me. After I got further into the forest, I found a good place to hide. I stayed there for a while, probably 30 minutes. I hoped that was enough time for the guy to leave. Then, in the cover of the dark, I quietly moved through the trees back to where the shelter was. The man was gone, or at least not standing outside the cabin like before. But my bag was gone too. I thought I was being smart by dropping it, so I'd be able to run faster. But since he didn't chase me, I felt like maybe it was a bad decision. I had basically everything in that bag. My phone, my wallet, my keys, literally everything. I quietly left the area and went back toward my campsite. I could feel my heart beating faster as I got closer, just sensing that I wasn't alone still. Then I saw it, the bright glow of a campfire, burning right in the middle of my campsite. I thought by now it would have burned out. I walked a little closer. My tent was still up, and from what I could see, the man was nowhere around. It was just the near silent woods and the quiet, crackling fire. But then I saw my bag. It was sitting right in the middle of the campsite. Part of me really wanted to run up and grab it, but I also knew this was extremely suspicious. Why did he bring it back? He must have known I was going to go back to the cabin for my bag, and after not finding it there, I'd go back to the campsite. Even knowing all that this had to be too good to be true, I was still about to run up and snatch it. I could hear him humming to himself, too, like he was relaxed, just waiting. I turned around, found the main trail, and hiked through the dark all the way back to the road. Took me hours to flag down a car who was willing to help me. I then notified police. They went out to the forest with rangers in the morning, only to find nothing. All my stuff was gone, as if it were never there. Even the stones from the campfire had been moved and thrown back into the forest, like they were trying to cover up that a campsite had ever been there. Me and a childhood friend of mine, I'll call him Ethan, were out in the forest of Maine on a short camping trip. We both were fairly experienced. However, this was Ethan's first time going to this spot. I'd been there plenty of times before, so I knew the area pretty well. We backpacked down a several-hour-long trail to get to a clearing in the trees where we set up camp. I think we arrived around 6 o'clock. So after setting everything up, we built a nice campfire, made food, then cracked open a few beers and hung around the fire as the sun set around us. It was a chill, enjoyable night. I want to say around 2 hours into the night, we both heard what we thought was something moving around just outside our campsite, in the darkness, past what our campfire was lighting up. We looked, saw nothing, and for the rest of the night, we heard nothing else. We thought it was probably just a small animal scurrying away. Honestly, if nothing else happened, I never even would have remembered it or thought about it again. That's how insignificant it seemed in the moment. In the morning, we woke up early. This spot was good for a reason. There was a very secluded, private pond just a half-mile through the woods from the campsite. Nobody knew about it because the trail didn't actually lead to it. It was really nice, with a mini waterfall and a small river running through it. We spent most of our morning there, a whole 3 or 4 hours. Eventually, we headed back to make food and rest for a bit. I even took a short nap. Again, though, around 6 o'clock, the sun was getting lower, and we hadn't collected any firewood yet for the campfire. Most of the dry sticks lying around camp we'd used up the night before, so I had to do a little more searching to collect what we needed. Midway through, Ethan said he was going to take a walk around and explore the other areas, but would pick up whatever he could on his way back. I said, sure, and just continued grabbing sticks off the ground. Ethan did this pretty much every time we were out camping. I think he just enjoyed having some time alone, to take in the nature. Anyway, I got a good amount of firewood, sat back down at camp, and just wasted time until Ethan got back so I could start the fire. The sun got lower and lower. Eventually, I realized it had been a strangely long time since he'd left. Usually he wasn't out this long, and he was experienced enough to know not to be wandering the woods so close to sunset. The only way we had to keep in contact out here, where there's no service, is through our small satellite messengers. We kept them on us at all times in our small waste packs, along with bear spray and other stuff like that. It's usually more of an SOS device, but in situations like this, it came in handy too. I pulled mine out to send him a message, but but saw he'd already sent me one just a few minutes ago. Ethan said he got kind of lost, but happened to stumble back to the pond. I sent a message saying to just stay there. I'll hurry over to lead him back. Being lost, it's always best to just stay put and not risk getting more lost. And both me and Ethan knew that. So, knowing the area, I quickly started heading to the pond. At this point, it was really just a race against the sun. Even having headlamps and knowing the area during the day, it would still be really easy to get lost at night. I got about halfway to the pond, maybe 4 or 5 minutes away, when I got another message. I reached into my bag and checked it, assuming it was just him checking in or asking for an ETA. But Ethan sent the words, "I see you." What did he mean, I see you? I wasn't even near the pond yet. I stopped and looked around, confused, not seeing him anywhere. I said I wasn't there yet and didn't see him. Slightly worried, I started moving faster, basically running to the pond. I got there quickly, running up to the tree line, before the water. Ethan wasn't there. From where I was, I could see the whole tree line around the pond, and he wasn't anywhere around. I felt the blood rush from my face and pulled the messenger back out. My last message, saying that I didn't see him, hadn't been opened. I called out his name, heard my voice echo through the trees. The sun was nearly gone. The forest was getting quieter and darker. Maybe he already started heading back, like he somehow remembered the way. I don't know why he would, but where else would he be? With the daylight practically gone, I knew it was safest for me to head back and figure things out from the camp. I hadn't started the fire yet, so if I waited too long, I'd never find a campsite in the dark. I began walking, feeling uneasy as I moved through the trees and felt the woods get darker and darker. All I could think about was that ominous last message he sent. I see you. It was nearly pitch black by the time I was a minute or so from a clearing. But then I saw something, a flickering orange glow, right from where the campsite was. As I got closer, I could see the campfire was lit and someone was standing right by it. I started approaching, feeling a wave of relief, knowing Ethan had made it back safely. But when I got closer, the person suddenly shifted, looked toward me, then sprinted away from the fire out of the campsite. Heart pumping, I ran up, confused and terrified. That wasn't Ethan. I pulled my messenger back out and started spamming texts. At this point, I was seriously worried and disturbed by what was going on. But just a minute or so later, Ethan came running out of the woods into the campsite. He had a face of both fear and relief. He immediately said we had to go. I agreed, mentioned the guy I saw by the fire. He said it was likely the same guy he'd seen approaching him by the pond. He said he thought it was me until he got closer and realized it was someone else. Apparently, Ethan then tried asking if the guy knew how to get back to the trail, but the man didn't respond. He just kept walking forward. This sent him into a panic, where he just ran in the direction he thought was most likely toward the campsite, getting lost again, but eventually seeing the fire and going toward it. We packed and left. The hike back was unnerving, to say the least, but we did manage to get to our car and leave. Even just thinking about his presence outside our campsite, as we were talking, sleeping, everything completely unknown to us, is extremely disturbing.